New details tonight in the Michele Hundley Smith case. She is the Rockingham County woman who disappeared 24 years ago but turned up alive and well last week.
We now know where she lives because of her arrest and what she looks like. On the left is a picture from her from 2001. On the right is what she looks like now. Deputies took her mugshot after arresting her for failing to appear in court on an old DWI charge from 2001.
And because of her arrest, we now know she was found in Robeson County, which is south of Fayetteville, down by the South Carolina line. WFMY News 2's Nixon Norman drove down there today to try to talk to her. She is live with new information.
On December 9th, 2001, a mother told her family she was going Christmas shopping. She never came home. Her husband waited, her children waited, the police searched. Days turned into weeks, weeks turned into years. For 24 years, she was gone. No body, no goodbye, no explanation. Then, in 2026, police made an announcement that stunned everyone. She was alive. But the real question wasn't where she had been. The real question was, why did she leave? And why did she stay gone for nearly a quarter of a century? This is the story of Michele Hundley Smith. Before we talk about the disappearance, we have to talk about the person. Because it's easy, in cases like this, to reduce someone to a headline. Missing woman, cold case, mystery solved. But Michele Hundley Smith was a real person. She was 38 years old in December of 2001. She lived in Rockingham County, North Carolina, a quiet, rural part of the state tucked between Greensboro and the Virginia border. She was a wife, she was a mother to 3 children, and she existed inside the kind of life that most people would recognize: school pickups, dinner on the table, laundry, bills, a house that needed things fixed. The holiday season was in full swing. Christmas lights were going up across the county. Stores were packed. People were making lists and checking them twice. It was the kind of ordinary December that you don't remember later because nothing remarkable happened. Except that for the Smith family, something remarkable was about to happen, and they wouldn't understand it for 24 years. December 9th, 2001. It was a Sunday. Michele told her family she was heading to Kmart in Martinsville, Virginia, to do some Christmas shopping. Martinsville is just across the state line, about 30 minutes from Rockingham County. It sounded completely normal, routine, the kind of errand a mother runs a dozen times every December. So no one thought twice about it. She got in her car and she drove away. And that was the last time her family saw her. At first, no one panicked. Maybe she got stuck in traffic. Maybe the store was crowded. Maybe she stopped somewhere else on the way home. Hours passed. Then evening came. Then the night. And Michele didn't walk back through the door. Days went by. Then a week. By the end of December, more than 3 weeks after she vanished, her husband filed a missing persons report. And that's when the Rockingham County Sheriff's Office began to ask the question that would go unanswered for more than 2 decades. Law enforcement doesn't take a missing adult the same way they take a missing child. There's a reason for that. Adults have the legal right to leave. They can walk away from marriages, from families, from their entire lives. It happens more than people realize. So the initial investigation had to answer a basic question first. Is this a missing person or a person who chose to leave? Investigators checked financial records. They retraced her route to Martinsville. They interviewed friends, neighbors, family members. They checked the Kmart she said she was heading to. No confirmed sightings, no confirmed contact. No signs of a struggle or violence anywhere along the route. Her car eventually turned up, but it didn't tell them what they needed to know. It didn't tell them where she was. As weeks turned into months, the investigation slowed. Cold cases don't close, they just grow quieter. Detectives had other cases. Other families needed answers too, and Michelle's file moved further and further back. But her family never stopped wondering. Let's slow down here, because I think the part of this story that gets lost in the headlines is what happened to the people left behind, Michelle's 3 children. In December of 2001, they lost their mother. Not to death, or at least they didn't know that. They lost her to uncertainty. And there are researchers who will tell you that uncertainty is its own kind of grief, sometimes worse than knowing. When someone you love dies, you grieve. It's devastating. It's painful beyond words. But there's a beginning to that process. When someone disappears, just vanishes, there's no beginning. Because it never fully starts. You can't grieve someone who might still be out there. You can't let go of someone when you don't know if they need you to hold on. So Michelle's children did what children in that situation have to do. They grew up. Birthdays came and went. First days of school, graduations, proms, maybe weddings, maybe children of their own. The entire arc of a childhood, of young adulthood, without their mother present. And every year, the question remained, what happened to her? Every holiday season, every December 9th, that question was still there. Not answered, just there. The world changed dramatically between 2001 and 2026. Think about what was different. In 2001, most people didn't have smartphones. Social media didn't exist yet. Google was barely 2 years old. By 2026, you could search anyone's name and find them in seconds. Facial recognition existed. Databases were interconnected in ways that would have seemed like science fiction in 2001. And yet, Michele Hundley Smith remained on the missing persons list for 24 years. Now, that's either remarkable or it's telling. Either she was extraordinarily careful about staying hidden, or she was simply living a life that didn't attract attention, a quiet life, under the radar, not far away at all. Because here's what investigators eventually discovered. When they finally located Michele in February of 2026, she wasn't in another country. She wasn't living under a false name in California or New York. She was in North Carolina, less than 200 miles from where she disappeared, less than 200 miles from her children. In early 2026, investigators received new information about the case. We don't know exactly what that tip was. We don't know who made the call or how the lead came in. But on February 20th, 2026, deputies located Michele Hundley Smith. She was alive. She was described by authorities as being in good health. And when they spoke with her, she told them something that became the center of every conversation about this case. She said she left because of ongoing domestic issues. Those were the words used, domestic issues. She said that was why she walked away in December of 2001, and that was why she stayed gone. Now, here's where it gets complicated. At the time of her disappearance, there were no official reports of domestic violence on record, no protective orders, no prior calls to law enforcement. That doesn't mean nothing happened. Domestic situations are notoriously underreported. Many people, particularly in the early 2000s, in rural areas, never called the police, never filed anything, never told anyone. They just endured, or they found another way out. We don't know the full truth of what Michele experienced. Only she does. What we know is what she told investigators, and what she asked for next: privacy. Imagine being her children. For 24 years, you lived with not knowing. You went through every stage of grief: denial, anger, depression, acceptance, probably multiple times. Maybe you made peace with the idea that your mother was dead. Maybe you didn't. And then one day, out of nowhere, you find out she's been alive this whole time. She's been in North Carolina, less than 200 miles away. She was alive for every birthday you spent without her, every holiday, every milestone she missed. She was alive. How do you even begin to process that? Michelle's daughter spoke publicly about the moment the family learned the news. She described the emotions as overwhelming, joy, relief, and heartbreak, all at the same time. Because learning that your mother is alive doesn't erase 24 years. It doesn't give those years back. It doesn't answer every question. In some ways, it creates new ones. The story didn't end with Michele being found. Shortly after deputies located her, she was placed under arrest. Not for disappearing, not for abandonment. She was arrested on an outstanding warrant, one that had been issued all the way back in 2001. Here's what happened. Just weeks before she vanished, Michele had been charged with driving while impaired. She was due in court on December 27, 2001, 18 days after she disappeared. She never showed up for that court date. When a defendant fails to appear, a judge issues an order for their arrest. That warrant was issued, and it sat in the system for 24 years, active, waiting. So when deputies located Michele in February of 2026, they ran her name. The warrant came back, and she was arrested on a 24-year-old DWI failure to appear. She later posted bond. A court date was scheduled. As for charges related to the disappearance itself, investigators stated there was insufficient evidence to pursue anything further. Which brings up a legal reality that surprises a lot of people. In the United States, it is not a crime to disappear. Adults can legally walk away from their lives, from their spouses, from their children, from everything. The law does not compel you to stay. And so we arrive at the part of this story that has no clean resolution, the part that stays with you. Because this isn't a story about a crime in the traditional sense. No one was murdered, there's no villain in handcuffs, there's no dramatic courtroom moment. What there is a deeply human story about pain, choice, and consequence. And it forces us to ask questions that are genuinely uncomfortable. If Michele was suffering in her marriage, if there was real abuse, real fear, real desperation, does that change how we understand her choice? Many survivors of domestic situations describe feeling like there was no way out, like no one would believe them, like leaving through the front door legally was impossible. Some people disappear because they feel it's the only exit available to them. Does that make it right? Does it make it understandable? Those are two very different questions. And then there's the other side of this. 3 children grew up without a mother. They carried that loss for 24 years. Whatever pain existed inside that home in 2001, those children were also living inside it, and they were left behind. Is it possible to hold both truths at the same time? To understand why someone left and still grieve what that leaving took from others? I think it is. I think that's actually the most honest place to sit with a story like this one. Not in judgment, not in easy forgiveness, but in the hard, complicated space where real human stories actually live. Some missing person cases end in tragedy. Some end in reunion. This one ends in something harder to name. Michele Hundley Smith walked out of her life on a December morning in 2001. For 24 years, her family didn't know if she was dead or alive. In February of 2026, they got their answer. She was alive. She had been the whole time. But answers don't always bring the closure we imagine they will. Sometimes the answer just opens a new set of questions. And sometimes, the most honest thing we can say about a story like this is, we may never fully understand it. And that's human. If this story moved you, I want to hear from you. Leave a comment below. Could you forgive someone who disappeared from your life for 24 years? There's no wrong answer. And if you're new here, this is what we do. Real stories, real cases, real questions that stay with you long after the video ends. Subscribe, turn on notifications, and I'll see you in the next one.